I'm using the prompt tips for a worry free mindset, and the gag is I've been the complete opposite all day. In fact, I've been so worried that I had a little cry sesh over it. So, I think this is a great example to show that there isn't a worry free mindset, but there are things that you can do to honor yourself when you're having a day that is riddled with anxiety or you're just not feeling yourself. You feel like everything's crumbling and everything's going wrong. I think the number one most helpful thing is for me, my anxiety has gotten exponentially better as I've developed a relationship with trust with myself and confidence in myself. I am so dedicated to myself. I am my number one priority, period. My number one relationship is my relationship with myself. And I care about how I feel, just like I care about how each of my friends feel and the people who are closest to me. I care as much, if not more, about myself and how I'm feeling in my day to day. And so when I'm having an anxiety filled day, that is one thing that grounds me is that I can return to that no matter what, no matter the outcome of whatever situation I'm facing. I know I have my back. I know that I care about myself. I know that regardless of the outcome, I'm going to be okay because I've got me. So, from that standpoint, I tend to myself in the way that I would if I were caring for somebody else or what I would suggest for them to do to make them feel better. So this morning I listened to my body and I felt like I really needed a grounding walk in nature. So I have a few locations in the city that I go to for my walks, but I went to my favorite one today because I was really needing it. And I just felt like I needed to be with the trees. I did not grow up an outdoorsy person at all, like actually the complete opposite. But I, as a practice of building my self confidence, that's another video I can get into, created daily rituals for myself that I would not compromise on. And one of them was taking a daily walk, and that absolutely transformed my life. And through that, I came to understand the value of being in nature and immersing yourself in nature. No matter what's going on in your life, the cycle of nature continues and it helps you get a feel for the ebbs and flows of life and its cyclical nature and see that regardless, every spring the buds start sprouting and it's January and I already started seeing new buds come out and it gave me that reminder of like no matter what, it's going to be fine. The birds are still hopping around in the forest. They're still chirping. They don't know any of this shit that's going on. It may be woo as fuck, but I have tremendous respect for the trees and I feel like they hold so much wisdom and being around them, you can absorb some of that wisdom and groundedness. I think just a tree itself, it reaches its roots into the ground sometimes twice as long as the height of the tree or more. And at the same time as it's diving into the earth, it is reaching up into the sky and it really helps remind me to orient my posture towards life in a very grounded, secure way that is reaching towards the light. And I've walked this park a million times and I've never come across this display before, but it felt like a little, like something from the universe, like a little perky pick me up that I really needed. My other approach is I let myself go at a really slow, grounded pace. When you think about anxiety, the energy of it, it's like a little frantic, it's fast paced, it's just like chaos, not grounded, feels a little untethered. It feels like one of those little things in the parking lots of where they sell cars, kind of like woo all over the place. And so I always remind myself that the antidote to that is slowing down, grounding myself. I allow myself to go at the pace that feels like it relieves a little bit of that frantic, chaotic energy. I recognize, like, okay, today's a high anxiety day. I'm going to let myself be chill and Another antidote to anxiety, I'm learning this one's a little harder for me because I don't have very much fire in my chart, but action is unfortunately another antidote to anxiety. So that is another way that I've changed my relationship with action, and I'm actively working on changing that to seeing it as an act of kindness towards myself. The action I take is sometimes frightening, terrifying, all of that, but ultimately it is an act of kindness to myself because it relieves that pressure or the burden that it's taking on my headspace. This time for me, action was taking time for myself after work instead of doing what I had originally planned. My action was, you know what? No, I need to journal and dump everything that's been on my mind out onto paper so it's no longer living inside my body. And to be honest, some of that time was also just scrolling on TikTok because I felt like I needed some time for my brain not to be doing any work. So part of part of the approach I take is knowing like, oh, maybe this isn't like the most healthy habit for me, but it's something I'm consciously doing right now to ease the burden that's going on in my mind. And in that, I try to stay connected to my energy. And when I recognize that my anxiety is getting worse from scrolling on TikTok, then I try to honor that and recognize, like, okay, now, kind of like a parent, it's like if the kid's on TV or whatever too long and you notice they're getting agitated, then you know that it's time to gently transition them to a new activity. And that's what I have to do with myself sometimes. But I want to include that because it's like sometimes the self care space, people make it seem very pristine and like there's only certain actions you can take that can help you. But ah, I don't operate that way. The couple other things that I do for myself, just offhand of like thinking about it, um, reaching out to somebody. This is this can be a hard one to learn if you're used to handling everything on your own. Um, Sometimes it can be like a little ego thing. We can get into all of it, but reaching out just it helps. Just if you have someone in your life that you can just talk to for a few minutes and feel validated in what you're feeling and understood, don't underestimate. We're communal creatures. We're not meant to do this alone. I promise it's not an inconvenience to them. It wouldn't be an inconvenience to you to get a phone call and from one of your friends just hearing like, "Hey, I'm just dealing with a ton of anxiety today. Can I talk through it with you?" Like if it's not an inconvenience to you, I don't think it would be an inconvenience to your friend. And along that same line, I the other thing that I do is try to do little nice favors for myself, like make myself a nice cup of tea or treat myself to my favorite treat. Anything that, like, if there's someone in your life that you really cared about that was having a rough day, where your mind would go to make it easier for them. That's the type of thinking I take towards myself too. And it just makes it cuts the edge off of it. It makes it a little easier to navigate, and it just signals to your body like, oh, I'm being cared for, I'm loved, and I'm running out of time. So if there's any tips that you have for getting through your hard anxiety days, please leave them in the comments and share this with any other anxiety girlies you know. Mwah! And I just want to loop back. I don't think it's super realistic to have a worry free mindset as your goal or your destination, but a more realistic approach is recognizing that I can tend to myself through the worry. Worry is going to be inevitable, anxiety is going to be inevitable. I can tend to myself through that. Hope that helps. Mwah!